Yeah. Gotta go for the goal, yeah, we gotta win. All heart and the soul, yeah, we putting in the trenches with the bros, gotta play to win. One more play, then we in the ship. One more game, we gon' get a win. Fight through pain, I can never quit. One more play, then we in the ship. One more play, then we in the ship. Gotta go for the goal, yeah, we gotta win. All heart and the soul, yeah, we putting in the trenches with the bros, gotta play to win. One more play, then we in the ship. One more game, we gon' get a win. Fight through pain, I can never quit. One more play, then we in the shit. One more play, then we in the shit. From the goal
Status Podcast.
Alright, man. We here again as a Status. I want to welcome y'all. Last time we touched on my story and we got our feet wet, scratched the surface of that. We didn't really get into too much about you. You had a unordinary story, you know what I mean? I don't know too many people who could have withstand what you went through and still be able to accomplish the things you accomplished. You know what I mean? I always give you your flowers when I talk to people like, yo, you know what I mean? He's like that. He went through a lot, just going through different things. But let's get into it with you. So we go back to we was out the bowling alley playing free for all on the carpet. So, you know what I mean? We 5-6 years old playing football at the bowling alley every Friday and Monday. You know what I mean? So let's get our feet wet because a lot of people don't realize that you're not really a football player. Like I ain't saying to disrespect. You're really not a football player. You're a hooper. At heart, you're a hooper. So like, let's start way back to where you used to rock the Iverson, the headband. I mean, we're going to go back to them days. Let's start us off with that.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it on the head. Like, my dad was always, a big-time football player. He was a three-sport star. I can't even say athlete. He was a three-sport star, football, basketball, baseball, no doubt. And but what he really excelled at was football, and everybody thought that once he did his thing that I was next up to do what I was going to do on the football field, right? But that wasn't really where my heart was at, right? I played football because I thought I wanted to satisfy him, and you was playing, and everybody that we was around was playing football. That's just what we did, but I didn't really take a liking to it until really later on. So early on, I wanted to be a hooper, right? Because that's what I wanted to do. And we would go practice out White Oak, and I'd be like, man, I really don't want to go to practice. I don't want to be here. Like, y'all boys are so much bigger than me. Growing up, I was the smallest one out of everybody. So I was out there like, man, what am I going to do that's going to take me away from football? And then I found hoops. And then, that's really what I fell in love with at the beginning.
Yeah. So White Oak Day, I remember you and Bub was on the same team. Yeah. So we a year apart. You and Bub on the same. You was tough. I remember. You was. What number was you? 23. 23. Bub. Yeah. Okay. You was running back quarter. You played it off. For real. So let me ask you, what at what point did you say I don't want to play football?
I never wanted to play football. The thing is, because we started young, 5 years old, right? So 5 or 6, something like that. So we played a year, then I played another year, and then the third year is when I really started to excel. And I was like, man, can't nobody on the field really touch me. And even though I was excelling, I scored X amount of touchdowns. The team went undefeated. Couldn't nobody do anything with us in the White Oak days, right? And then I just gave it up. Yeah. Right? Like I was literally at the top of my game as a youngin', right? And everybody, the future's so promising. This boy's gonna be a beast in football. Yeah. And then I was like, I'm done.
I swear. I remember that from. Well, I think we was. I remember because your dad used to take us everywhere. You know what I mean? So we'd be, and then when you said you ain't want to play, I was just like, damn, he gonna let him not play? You know what I'm thinking? And Coach was like, "Cause I don't want to play. I don't want to play."
And that's the thing. He never forced me to do anything. Like you was talking about with your pops. Once I started it, I wasn't allowed to quit. Right. If I was in it, then we was gonna do it. Right. But he never said listen, you have to play football. Right. And I think that allowed me to really put my heart and really fall in love with hoops at that time because he didn't force football on me. So I was able to just go into basketball with an open heart, like, this is what I love to do, this is what I'm going to do, and nobody's forcing me away from it, and nobody's forcing me into anything else.
So how crucial is it as a parent now, you know what I mean, not to, because I feel like I was forced into sports or whatever, so I'm not doing that with my kids, but how crucial is it as a parent to not force your kids into, you know, a sport or doing something they don't want to do?
I mean, it's super important because, like, you force them into it, their heart's not there.
Right.
They don't really want to be there. They don't really want to do it. And football is such a dangerous sport that if you don't want to be there and you're there, you're probably going to get hurt. Right? So I think that was one thing that my dad did with me. And with my daughter growing up, I mean, you know, she's starting to take a liking to sports now. She takes a liking to cheerleading. She takes a liking to a lot of different things. So I'm going to introduce her to everything that, you know, I think that she may excel at, and then let her make the decision from there, because I don't want her to go into anything without a full and open heart. Right. You know what I mean?
Okay, so Little League, you stopped playing.
Yeah, I was.
You stopped playing. At what age did you get back into football?
It was crazy, man. Shout out to Coach Hart, because I was 12 years old, so I stopped playing at 8. Okay. And I didn't play again till 12. Till middle school, 7th grade.
Did you play for the school, 7th grade?
No, I played Little Tigers.
Okay.
So I was walking down the street, and everything I did, I had a hoop rock in my hand.
I remember,
If you see me walking around the neighborhood, I always have
hoop rock, and you had the what made you walk on your tippy toes, get your bounce up. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so I always had a hoop rock. So I was walking down the street one day, walking down Stewart Street, and I had my basketball in my hand. And Coach Hart pulled up on me. He's like, "Hey man, I need a quarterback." I don't know what you're telling me for. I don't know what you're telling me for. He said, "Hey man, come out to Little Tigers. I need a quarterback on my team." And like, I played running back growing up, so I'm like, man, I ain't really even play quarterback. Like, we had certain design plays where I would take a snap, but I ain't no quarterback. Like, I played running back. And then he was like, just letting you know I need a quarterback, and he pulled off. So I went about my day, was doing whatever I was doing, and I went back to the crib, and I'm like, Dad, I want to play football. He was randomly. He was like, boy. I said, yeah, Coach Hart said he need a quarterback. Like, let's sign me up for Little Tigers. And he was like, all right. And he ain't show no emotion, no expression. So, and I know deep down he was probably geeked, oh yeah, let's do it. But he took me to Little Tigers, 12 years old, and I started playing again.
So from there, you went all the way until what? You finished it out? There's a point in time where you stopped playing again, right?
Man, even when I got back into it, my heart still wasn't in it.
Still wasn't in it.
I still wanted to be a hooper. I still wanted to do what I was doing on the hoop court. So I played football that one year. I wasn't the starting quarterback. I started on the defense. Who started from you? P.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't the starting quarterback. Yeah. So I played a lot on defense, had a few interceptions, and I had fun with it. I was an athlete, so I was able to do whatever they asked me to do. So the next year, I was like, all right, I'm going to play again. Like, there was no issue with me from that year to the next year. I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to play. And I go in, the next year I play. I start quarterback. And, we had a great season, undefeated. Champions, did what we did for Little Tigers.
That's when Fat Man was running back?
Yeah, Fat was running back. I was quarterback.
You was 5, he was 25.
Yeah.
I was here,
Okay, so we was hard.
Yeah, y'all was tough.
We was hard, like me, him, shout out to Rich, Spawn, D-Rob, like all of them boys.
Yeah.
And we came into a brand new league.
Right, yeah.
First year in that league, just ran through it. So we did that, and I was like, after that season, I was like, I'm done. I was like, I'm done.
You tried to go out on top.
In 8th grade, boys. In 8th grade, then we went undefeated. I was like, I'm done. I'm hooping.
Yeah.
So, going into high school, we had a 9th grade team.
Right.
So, we was coming from Little Tigers, and there was another group of kids that was coming from the school league, right?
Makes sense.
So, when we get to high school, we all become one team.
Right.
So, when we get to high school, they're like, they got a quarterback, and they're like, listen, he's going to be the starter when we get to 9th grade. And I'm like, he's not better than me.
Yeah.
And like, he's going to be the starter. He's been in the system. He knows how to run the option. I was like, listen, he's not better than me.
Right.
And it was like, all right, we'll see. I was like, well, I'm not
This
playing.
is your teammates saying,
Yeah,
like,
well, this is the kids from the school.
saying, okay.
Because there was a school team and there was a Little Tigers team, and then the school team was like, our quarterback is going to be our quarterback when we get to 9th grade. And I'm like, like, I'm the better ball player. And they're like, all right, we'll see. So at that time, my mind was already made up where I was like, I'm not even playing anyway, so that can be your quarterback. Right. But as they kept talking and we kept going through it, I was like, all right, I'm going to play. And I'm only playing just to show you that I'm better. Right? So I ended up playing 9th grade. I won the starting quarterback job. And, you know, we did what we did. We lost 2 games that year to Central and Penn Trafford. We lost to Penn Trafford in 9th grade every year for whatever reason. Then we get to high school and smack them boys. But that year, I was like, I'm just only doing this just to prove that I'm better. Right. So we did what we did, played ball, and you know that's when I got back into it a little bit.
So once you got into it, 9th grade, you playing. Did you feel, you know what I mean, because, you know, your dad was a standout athlete, he did this, X, Y, and Z. Did you feel pressure of, you know, walking in his shoes or following up behind him?
You know, I never felt that pressure. No? Never. Just because he never made me play. He never pressured me, so I never felt the pressure. Right. You know, I knew everything that he did, and, you know, he got his chance to play in the NFL, and, you know, he was a big-time college player, and no, it wasn't that time yet, but he was a JUCO. He was a Hall of Fame JUCO player, and like he's accomplished so many things, but he never put that pressure on my shoulders, so I never felt like I needed to perform.
No, that's what's up. Because even as we was younger, you know, he played. This is when Arena League was, you know, popping and whatnot. And so seeing him in a professional setting, did that ever, like, you know, give you that itch to want to be like, I want this? Like, you know what I mean?
It did, but on the basketball court.
Yeah.
like it's crazy because he did everything that he did in football, and I took that and I wanted to flip that into the basketball court. So, like, growing up, I loved North Carolina. I wanted to play basketball for North Carolina, and everything that I seen him accomplish, I wanted to accomplish it on the basketball court. Right.
That's what's up. All right. So let's fast forward a little bit. Mm-hmm. We let's say I'm gonna go back to what I remember. What was it, my junior? So your sophomore year, all right? You playing? We up here varsity. Mm-hmm. We're in practice. Yeah. What happened at practice? That because sophomore year it was close to back to I'm done with it. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, but here. Because that was coming out of 9th grade where I said I'm only playing to prove a point. Mm-hmm. So I proved that point and I was satisfied. I was like, I told y'all what it was. So going up to 10th grade where you start to compete at the varsity level, that's whenever I said again that, like, I'm done. Like, I don't want to play this game, right? And it was funny because going into my 10th grade year, I wanted everything that I wanted in basketball, and I was starting to accomplish that. Right, going into my 10th grade year, that AAU circuit, that summer, is whenever I start first getting recruited to play basketball. So I was like, listen, everything that I want to happen is happening. Right. So I'm getting the notoriety I need in the basketball court, and I'm only going into my sophomore season. Right. So I was like, I'm not playing football. I was like, I'm done, right? Like, why am I playing football? Right. And so I come down and, you know, Coach Smith is talking to me about playing football, and I'm like, listen, that's not what I want to do, right? So it wasn't really a big deal yet at that time, because I ended up going without any push. I ended up going to go play football, and sophomore year I went up, and at practice I broke my shoulder. Right. So I was diving into the end zone, and one of our players jumped on my back, and my shoulder like caved in like that. And
that's your shooting hand too.
Yeah, that's my shooting hand. I'm like, man, what am I doing out here, right? So, and that's the thing about it. Like, you going into it, you don't really want to be there. You get yourself hurt.
Right.
So I go in and I break my shoulder and I'm out the whole sophomore year. But the funny thing about that, like I break my shoulder and the coach is pulling on it. He's like, it's just a stinger. It's just a stinger. I'm like, man, it's not just a stinger. Shout out to Coach Hurt, the same coach that got me back into playing football. He's pulling on my arms like, it's just a stinger. You all right? I'm like, man, it's not just a stinger. So we go through, back then at that time, like Coach Smith's like, you don't go to the hospital unless we say you go to the hospital. So the trainer's not sending me to the hospital. I go through practice the rest of that day. The next day I go through practice. The day after that I come back and Coach Smith is like, I want you to take reps with the ones at quarterback. So I'm like, I tell him, I'm like, Coach, I can't move my arm. He's like, you're soft. Get out. So I was in the huddle about to call the play, and I'm like, Coach, I can't even move my arm, man. So he boots me out of the huddle, and I'm just standing there. And then that day, like later on that day, because it was home camp, I went back to the crib, and I just laid on the porch for like 3 hours. And I told my dad, I said, Dad, I gotta go to the hospital, man. Like something ain't right, I can't move. So we went to the hospital. I ended up breaking my shoulder, and I was out the whole 10th grade year.
So like you cracked a bone or like what?
Yeah, there's I don't even know what the bone's called, but the bone here was fractured in my shoulder.
So did that put you out for your hoop season?
No. I was out sophomore year, football season, and then late in the season. It was probably like the last week of the season. Coach Smith made me suit up. I'm like, dog.
Shout out Smitty, man.
Last week of the season, I suited up and.
I ain't gonna hold you. Coach Smith was different. Like he made, like I ain't gonna say he made people, but he helped develop a lot of people who they are today.
For
like,
sure.
You know what I mean?
That mentality.
Mentally weak. You're mentally weak. Swear to God.
That was Smitty's thing. And Smitty wasn't gonna let you be soft.
Nah, at all.
Right?
At all.
So shout out to Smitty.
It helps, but it also could be traumatizing. Where like, all right, I'm acting like a little chump. Man.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
really.
You know what I mean? So I'm just like, all right. So that's sophomore year. So now sophomore year comes the hoops.
Yeah.
How did you do on the hoop court? Like now that everything's coming together, you done got hurt. Football, you really don't want to be there. Now hoops that's where your heart is, right? So now hoop season come. You're sophomore. How did the hoop season turn out for you that year?
I thought it should have been a little bit better than what it was. Like I think the starting five was set from the previous hoop season to the next hoop season. So the starting five was starting five. I got a lot of burn as a sophomore, which is impressive in McKeesport. Do
you feel that you should have been in that five?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. And I think so. but you know, I'm a sophomore. Competing with a senior who's a Division I athlete. Right, he's a good ball player. But I was just a hooper. I just felt like that was what I did. That was my thing. Right. So I think I had a good sophomore season. Played the amount of minutes that not your average sophomore is going to play, and I think it turned out.
Not bad.
As good as it was going to be.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. Because like I said, you was a hooper. Like I didn't know you was a hooper. I give you flowers. You a hooper. All right. So now you done coming off the broken shoulder, going into football. What's your mindset now? You're done.
I'm done. I broke my shoulder. First of all, I ain't want to be there. Right? I ain't want to be there to begin with, and then I went, and then I broke my shoulder. I'm like, no, it's a wrap.
So what brought you then? Because what convinced you to say, all right, Ty, let's do this one more time. Let's try this. What convinced you?
It was ill because, like, that winter after football seasons, after basketball season, we started lifting for football. Right. So Coach Smith is like, he's standing at the gym. He's the gym coach. And I walk by. He's like, Brown. I'm like, what's up? He's like, where you been? You haven't been out lifting. I was like, I ain't playing. He was like, I knew it. He's like, you're soft. Don't play basketball. That's what he said. I was like, that's what I'm planning on doing anyway. Like, whatever. He's like, you're soft. So later on that day, I forget what class I was in, but he calls me out of class and goes down to the AD's office. So I go down to the AD's office. The AD is Coach Smith, It's the basketball coach. It's the assistant basketball coach. My dad, my uncle. Like there's all these people that's in the AD's office. So I walk in and I'm like, "What's up?" And then he's like, "Bro, why do you think I called you here?" And then I start talking. He's like, you're not allowed to talk yet. He said, you can't talk until you tell me what I had for lunch. I looked out there. He had like a styrofoam thing in front of him. Like, I don't know, you had leftovers.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, but what did I eat? And on the thing it said red lobster. I'm like, you had red lobster?
Yeah.
He said, yeah, but what did I eat? I'm like, I don't know, man. So he started talking, and he's like, kind of like your stories, like name 5 Division I basketball players that came out of McKeesport. So I'm like, Zeke.
Yeah.
He's like, Zeke didn't graduate yet. He doesn't count. I was like, all right. And I started thinking like Marlon, Kimbrough, but he didn't go to the port.
Right.
So I couldn't name anybody.
Right.
And he's like, see, your future is football. Right? So at that time, I'm a quarterback. And he's like, you need to come. I'm telling you, if you play football, you'll be a Division I cornerback at Penn State. That's what he said. I was like, I don't even play defense. He was like, that's your future.
Yeah.
Like, you'll be a Division I defensive back at Penn State. I was like, whatever.
That's deep. Like, that's a testament to Coach Miller. Like, he's seen it. Like, even before
I never
even know. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You're not even a defensive player at the time. It's just like you sit there and tell you, "Oh, you're gonna be Division I DB."
Yep.
Boy, I don't even play defense. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's the thing. And I was like, whatever.
Yeah.
And at that point, he pushed me even further away from football.
Yeah.
I don't want to play no defense.
Right,
I'm a quarterback. That's what I do.
So y'all's in a meeting. After you leave that meeting, your mind is still forget football.
Forget football. Yeah, I was like, I don't play. First of all, I don't want to play football.
I really don't want to play
defense. So I'm like, yeah, that's done.
And so all right, leaving that meeting.
Yeah.
Where's that point in time where you're just like, or someone had to talk with you where you're like, all right, you know what, you're right, let me play.
I think my dad started leaning on me a little bit more to play football because, like, whenever I was young, he wasn't really around as much when I was young because he was playing arena ball.
Right.
So he wasn't able to see what I was doing on the football field. Like, my mom would record it, and when he was in town, he would come and we would watch it. But whenever I got older and he was done playing football, he was around more, so he was able to see oh, this dude can play. So when I got to high school, he was like, listen, man, I think it's in your best interest if you play football. So we had that talk, and then he's like...
still, though, he just like, I think you should.
Yeah.
He just like, yo, you playing,
he never said, yo, you're playing. He just encouraged me.
Right.
So, we had numerous conversations, and then I ended up playing junior year.
Yeah, junior. So now junior year there, all right. I'm smiling because that's my year, you know what I mean? So junior year there. What's your mindset right now? All right, so you just coming into summer camp. What's your mindset? Because now you're not at the time, you're not starting. You know what I mean? This is your first year playing in 2 years, really, from being injured. So what's your mindset at this time?
I think going into that year, no matter what I'm going to do, I'm going to compete.
Right.
Regardless of what's happening, I'm going to compete.
Right.
And going into that year, I was almost taken back a little bit that I wasn't the day one starter because you pretty much begged me to play football. So I walk in and I'm not the day one starter. And it goes back to, again, 9th grade year, like, all right, now I got to show you again that I should be the one on the field full time, right? So going into camp, I wasn't the starter. We were splitting reps a little bit, and then going into game one, we're splitting reps.
Y'all split reps for a couple games until eventually it was shown not to knock the other QB because he was good too, but it was shown he was a defensive player. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm gonna give you the keys. I think that was the best interest anyway.
Yeah, I think that was the best interest of the team. And to be honest, like, whenever the competition rises, I think I rise to that occasion. Yeah. And we played against a super good ball club, Erie McDowell. That's whenever I took over full time because that was we was playing against the scrubs in the area. And then we played against a ball club, and I think that's kind of where I separated myself.
Right.
And I played that whole game. They never took me out of that game. And then from there, I took on that role.
Okay. So now, all right, junior year, you have success. All right. After the season, how's it looking as far as recruiting? Because this is when you really got your feet wet. Yeah. School's starting to talk to you. Now it's like, all right, I'm getting Division I interest right now. Even did you get scholarships? Okay, so now you're getting D1 scholarships your junior year from football. Did you at the time you didn't have no D1 scholarships from hoops? Did you?
I did.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay, so now where's your
Not
mind?
as big as I had a Division I offer from Robert Morris and Duquesne
for hoops. Okay.
At that time.
Right.
And I was getting recruited Buffalo, Akron, schools like that. Right. And I think where my mind shifted on football was the Gateway game. I think that's where my mind shifted on football because,
we played in front of thousands and thousands.
like I never
in high school. It's like 10 G's then, 10K.
It was crazy. Like to that point, I've never experienced anything like that. Right. So we go to Gateway and we come out. I get blasted. Boom! Like the first drive.
When you came in the huddle, said 13 solid on 2.
Boy, I don't remember that, boy. Y'all keep saying that. I don't remember that, boy.
I'm like, what? What is he talking about? You hit one.
But I got blasted in the first drive of that Gateway game, and it didn't faze me.
Right.
That was the thing. Like it didn't faze me, and then we ended up getting smacked in the first half of that game. Then the second half of that game, I went crazy. Yeah. I went off in the second half of that game, and then we came back. We was down 21-3 or something.
28-7 going into halftime.
We was down 28-7 going into halftime. And we ended up losing that game 31-28.
31-28.
Right? Yeah. And I think after that game, I was like, I think this is what I meant to do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That game would do it. Yeah. That game would do it for sure. All right, so now that's what you want to do. All right, so now going into your senior year, you got offers Division I hoops and Division I football, right? So now going into senior year, at what point did you say, like, I'm playing football D1, I'm playing football when I go to college, or I'm still not sure? Like, where did I sit that day?
It was the first day after my junior season, because they're not allowed to offer you yet until after your junior season's over.
Right.
So the first day after my junior season, I got my first football offer, and I was like, "This is what I meant to do."
So you're at this point you're not hooping.
I cut off all my basketball recruiting the first day after my junior year of football.
And do you? Let me ask you this. I know the answer, I think, but do you regret it?
No. I've accomplished so much through football, and there's no way I'll be where I'm at right now. I mean, not to say that something different or something better would have came out of basketball, but playing football has really got me where I'm at right now.
Okay, so now, boom, my mindset football. All right, you go to UConn. UConn, you got recruited by
Randy Edsall's staff.
Okay, okay. So now you go to UConn. What made you commit to UConn? What set UConn apart from the other Division I schools you had?
I think at that time, I wanted to get out of Pittsburgh.
Okay.
I wanted to get far away from home. I don't know why. There was just so much going on at home where I was like, I think if I'm going to be successful, I need to get far away from it.
Yeah.
Right? So I take my visit to UConn. UConn's in the Big East at the time. Big East football, Big East basketball, Big East everything was just legit, top notch, right? I think the conference really intrigued me. I go up there. I'm not really a studious dude, but they like sold me the academic piece. I was like, they're top 20 public academic school. I didn't really care. My mom, they sold my mom on that. And she was like, UConn. And they're coming off of, I think a couple years before, they're coming off a Big East championship. The facilities was top notch. It was the best facilities that I seen at that time. And then it was close to New York, where I got a lot of family. So I went to New York every weekend, and I think the closeness of my family away from Pittsburgh, my mom pushing it, and then playing in the Big East, I think it was the right choice at that time.
So all right, now you're up UConn, right? You redshirt, correct?
Yeah, redshirt.
How now coming out of high school, you've been a star for the last 2 years. You're the man, big man on campus. How humbling is going into college and being told like we're researching?
I think it's
like, did I play with your mental?
It didn't for me because remember I was a quarterback in high school. Coach Smith said you're going to go to college and play DB, and I said yeah right. Through the whole recruiting process, like there were schools that came in, and I'm like I want to play quarterback. I want to play quarterback. I want to play quarterback.
Did teams offer you as a quarterback? No.
They stopped recruiting me. They stopped recruiting me.
Because you say I'm playing quarterback.
I'm playing quarterback and that's it, right?
Well, we're done with
you. Yeah, exactly. And there was a lot of teams that came in and did that. And whenever I got to UConn, I was a DB. But a lot of the recruiting process up until I got there was receiver. Yeah. You're going to come and play receiver.
So UConn sold you as a receiver?
They recruited me for a long time as a receiver.
Yeah.
And then I started to fall in love with the school. And once they seen that I fell in love with the school, they said, listen, we want you to come play safety.
Did they tell you as the recruiting or when you got there?
No, when they were recruiting.
Okay,
because I was already sold. Like
you sold. I messed with you.
I want to go to UConn, right? Okay. And through that process, they said we want you to play safety, and I was like, all right, cool.
Oh, you was cool with it?
Yeah. So when I got there, I've never played defense in my life,
right.
So it was such a learning adjustment, and both physically and mentally, where I was like, I think I'm gonna need some time.
So the red shirt helped. Like you took it as like I need this anyway.
Yeah, and then I came in. Check it out. I came in. I was $170.
You was like
right. I was $170. So I'm walk on campus. I see a boy got his beater on, jug of water. I'm like, what position he play? Safety. I'm like, ooh, he about 215. See another boy got his bucket hat on, shirt off. What position he play? Safety. I'm like, ooh. I was like,
what am I doing?
I was like, ooh, I'm $170. I don't even want to take my shirt off, bro. But I mean, me, the way that I am, I'm gonna come in. I'm gonna do what I gotta do. I'm gonna compete. Right. So I think that red shirt at that time was necessary.
Yeah. Now you're in your red shirt freshman year. Mm-hmm. Academics, right? That was me knowing how was academics your freshman year? Because now you've been in high school. We all been through high school. High school, you just gotta not be a nuisance. Like, you know what I mean? And you're gonna pass. You know what I mean? If you fail in high school, you kind of like you did that.
No doubt.
You know what I mean? So now you're coming from that into your 9 hours away from home in Connecticut, red shirt in, so you're not traveling. This is all new to you, right?
Yeah.
So how was it as far as with academics?
Freshman year was such an adjustment that it made everything so much harder. It made football hard. It made school hard. Everything was just 10 times harder, being so far away from home. And the lack of diversity at that time at UConn just made me feel out of place.
So let me stop you. What's the ratio as far as, minorities at UConn?
I don't know the specific number, but I could walk into a class of 600 kids and there's probably like 4 or 5 black dudes in there. It was like that at that time. I think it's gotten a lot better now because even as I was going through, it was starting to get better. Okay. But it was an adjustment, especially coming from McKeesport, where we're used to what we're used to. And then you get there, and then this is not what we're accustomed to. And then when I get there academically, it was hard for me, right? I'm sitting in big lecture halls. My whole thing is I'm a relationship builder, right? If you're my teacher, I'm gonna build a relationship with you, and I'm gonna charm you up, and I'm gonna do what you ask me to do with the bare minimum of actually doing the work, right? But you're gonna like me so much that you're gonna help me in any way, exactly, right? So when I got to UConn, there was 600 kids in the classroom. Teacher don't know if you did or not, right? So more times than not, I ain't go to class. I was like, listen, I'm here because I want to play football and I want to play professional football. You go back to that question of my dad, and seeing what he was able to accomplish through football, I wanted that now through football.
Right.
So my whole focus when I got to UConn was to play professional football. So academically, I rarely went to class. I went to study hall and I really did nothing.
Yeah.
And I focused so much on football that
about the other aspect.
I forgot about school and what I needed to do to be successful in school.
Right.
So I think that was a big adjustment for me, and I ended up with a 1.3 grade point average after the first semester.
Okay, and with that, it's like shocking because, knowing you're not really you're a social guy, but you're not a social guy. Like, you know what I mean? You don't drink, you don't party, this and that. So that's not even really to blame because you didn't even do none of that, right? So you got a 1.3 off of straight, like, just lack of motivation in the academic.
Yeah, lack of motivation. And the thing is, like, when you get to college and you're not really focused academically on what you want to do beyond your sport, you just jump into any class, right? Any major, you like, just put me in anything. Right, put me in the easiest major that you can give me.
You just really follow along with the people ahead of you. Like, they're like, oh yeah, we're in this.
Exactly.
Put me in that too.
Exactly, which is called major clustering.
Right.
What you do whenever you're a student athlete and you're all in the same major. And a lot of kids don't know this, but to get into specific majors, a lot of times you need to have a certain grade point average minimum to get into that major, right? So I get in, I'm taking general classes of topics that I don't even care about, right? I don't want to discuss. I can care less about what you're talking about right now because I don't want to learn this. Right. So when I'm there and I don't really want to be there anyway, I'm just going to say, I'm going to focus on what I want to do when I'm here, which is football. And like you said, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I didn't go out at all. I probably went out twice my whole time at UConn, right? And at night, like Friday nights, Thursday nights, people going out, Saturday nights, I'm in the crib and I'm knocking out 500 push-ups. Yeah, that's just what I did, right? Because I was so focused on football and my sport that whenever everybody else is doing their social thing, I was in the crib working. And like my roommates didn't really go out either, so I would go and I would do my push-ups, and they ain't want to do them with me. So like, you're soft as hell. Like, you ain't gonna knock these, because we would always do the deck of cards. We would flip over the card, whatever number you pull, that's how many push-ups you did. So every night I would do that.
Now, what do you think took you to, I don't want to say life, but that lifestyle, like not one, especially in college, you get your feet wet, you experience things, but that wasn't you. You know what I mean? So what you think led you to that lifestyle? Is it just, seeing, your pops not doing it, or whatever the case may be?
I've never really wanted to try it. Yeah. Right? Like my dad don't drink, don't smoke, don't do any of that. My mom will drink socially, but not really. And I never really wanted to figure out what that seemed like. Right? So me not drinking, I really didn't want to be around it. Right? Like it would almost make me mad. Like being around people who are drunk and I'm sober, and I'm no, you're really making me mad right now. Like get away from me. And I just didn't want to be around it. And I seen so many like negative things happen from being out and just in the wrong place at the wrong time, and I never wanted to be in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Okay, that's fair. So all right, you got the 1.3. All right, you're a redshirt freshman. You really, at this point, with a 1.3 freshman, you can be replaced, right?
Oh yeah, you can.
So be replaced. After the season, that semester in 1.3, what occurred now? Because you're ineligible. 1.3, you're ineligible. So what occurred that December following your redshirt freshman year?
Nothing.
Nothing.
It was crazy because the next semester I got a 1.9.
Yeah.
So but here's the difference. The difference was that I'm 20 pounds heavier now. I know how to play the position now. So spring ball, I'm making some plays. So I get a 1.3, I get a 1.9. Most cases, you're out.
Right.
But they knew. This kid from the Kingsport,
he's tough.
like he's probably gonna be a ball player, so we're gonna have to work with him.
Okay.
So spring ball, I'm so focused on my sport, I don't think about school. Didn't do what I needed to do in the classroom, so I had to stay. Everybody goes home in May,
right.
And I had to stay for the May semester so that I can take another class.
The semester before summer.
The semester before summer, yeah. So I had to take another class so that I can be eligible, because at the time I was ineligible.
Right.
So I took a class, a pretty easy class, where I got an A and put me over a 2.0 to be eligible to play ball.
Okay. So do you, I don't want to say you regret, but you definitely regret. But so, all right, how was that knowing, like, you going into that semester? I forget what they call it, because I had I had to do something like that before. Also, some credit GPA booster class, whatever. But all right, so now you're going into summer camp. All right, summer camp's here. You're a redshirt freshman. Is the position open?
No, starter that was there the previous year returns.
Oh,
and he's only a junior now. He was a starter as a sophomore.
Yeah.
And then coming into my redshirt freshman year, he's only a junior, returning starter. So, but here's the thing. I do that Maymester class, and then they send me home for the whole summer.
So you're not even up there for the summer?
No, I'm not even up there for the summer.
Dang.
So I'm in a port.
Yeah.
For the whole summer, because here was the thing. I was probably like 2.01 GPA.
Yeah.
So they're like, listen, you got to stay home the entire summer, because if you come up here and you fail a class, you're going to be ineligible for the next year. So
they didn't even take that risk. Like, all right, we want you to take class. Nah, don't even take a class, bro.
Don't even
be good. We gonna rock with this 2.01.
Yep.
You rock out.
Yeah, exactly. So they sent me home for the whole summer. So while everybody else is up there, they're grinding with the strength coach, they're training, or getting their conditioning in. They're doing everything that they need to do to be successful going in a summer camp for the season. And I'm in the port. And another thing, we got a new head coach. And the academic advisor tells the head coach, Ty doesn't want to be here. He doesn't want to play here. So
this is not even having a conversation.
I didn't even meet the dude yet. Not even having a conversation.
Just going off your grades.
Just going off my grades and what the academic advisor says. So I come back, and this is all while I'm home, because I go through spring ball with the new staff. They see what I'm doing on the field, and I also get a 1.9.
Yeah.
So, right, the academic staff is like, this dude is pretty much a nuisance to the team. Like,
so when you got a new coaching staff, y'all got a new academic everything too?
No. The same
the same one
still.
So
the one that I got a 1.3 with, then a 1.9 with, they're still there. So the new coaching staff comes in, they're able to tell the coach whatever they want to tell him, right? Because they have no prior knowledge of the team. So while I'm away for summer, back in McKeesport, they tell the coach, like, you might as well write Ty off, pretty much.
And you don't even know that.
I don't even know this. I'm home.
Yeah.
So I'm at home grinding, and I'm telling everybody at home, I'm like, listen, I'm going to be the starter this year. I'm going to be the starter. Knowing that the returning player, the returning starter is coming back, and it's his position, right? So I'm telling everybody, like, yeah, I'm going to be starting next year. But the thing is, when I'm in the port, I was grinding.
Yeah.
Weight room, on the field, like, I was going crazy, knowing that I got to back up these words, right? So I'm putting in that work, and they're in Connecticut putting in that work with the strength coach, with professional strength staff and people that know what they're doing to build your body physically, mentally, emotionally. They're going through it. And I'm in McKeesport. I'll go train, X amount of hours, and I was really putting in that work. So the thing is, with that, you got to pass a conditioning test. Right? You got to pass a conditioning test. And the coaching staff's already written me off. So we have the conditioning test right before camp. And they call me. They're like, Ty, you got to come take the conditioning test. They're like, we're not paying for you to come up here. I don't know how you're going to get here, but you better be here and you better pass the test, or we're kicking you out of school.
Off rip.
So a week before I had to be there. But I'm grinding already.
Yeah, so
I'm already grinding. So at this time, I don't have a car or nothing yet. So I take my mom's car up there. Me and two of my boys is ride up there. We don't even stay the night. We go up there. We ride to Connecticut. I go and kill the conditioning test. Yo, I go in there and I kill it. And they're like, everybody else is. And I'm up there talking crazy. I kill the conditioning test. I'm talking crazy to the strength cast staff. I'm talking crazy to everybody on the team. And then I get in the whip and then I dip.
Dip back to the port.
Dip back to the port, boy. So I'm back in the port and camp is in like a week or two.
Yeah.
So I'm still grinding, still going hard. I'm still telling everybody I'm gonna be the starter.
Yeah.
And knowing that I'm not.
Right.
So I get to camp and I'm 4th on the depth chart.
Ooh.
I'm telling everybody at the crib to be the starter. I'm number 4 on the depth chart, right? There's the returning starter and 3 freshmen in front of me.
They put 3 freshmen?
No, but 3 redshirt freshmen. 3 kids that's in my class.
Okay.
3 freshmen in front of me.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right. So we go through camp. The returning starter gets the nod, obviously, first game. And I'm like 2nd on the depth chart at this time, right, through camp. Yep. So we go through camp. We go through the first few games. I think like the third or fourth game, I ended up being a starter that year.
So now I remember, I don't know where I was, but I remember watching the game. And I think when you first start getting your feet wet against West Virginia, right? You got a pick 6. That was the first game you started.
That was my first start. Yeah.
First start, I remember that. All right, so now West Virginia's where you're down with, right? So now you getting your feet wet. First start against your dad's old school. You get a pick 6. What's that feeling like?
That feeling was unbelievable, just because of, the whole build-up of what it is, right? I'm a freshman. It's my first start at my dad's alma mater.
Yeah.
Like, everything about that was just so special.
Right.
And it didn't happen because it was my dad's alma mater. It just coincidentally happened, right?
Yeah.
So whenever I got the interception return for a touchdown, it was an unbelievable feeling.
So when you got that pick 6, you scored, now you're here, did you get that feeling like, this is what I've been, grinding for? Everything I did up until this point is for this. Yeah,
it was. But before that, I was scared to death because it was my first start. And then I walk into Morgantown. It's a gold rush. The whole fans everything is yellow. I'm walking out. I'm like, this is different. I was like, this is different. Like
it's different being on the sideline. Now we on the field.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I walk out. And I never went on the field pregame.
No.
So when I walk out,
that was the first time
I'm on the field. I did everything in the training room. I did all my stretching and everything. And I just sat in my locker before the game. I never went on the field. And so I walk out and I'm like, this is crazy. so I'm like, well, we here. Right? We here. We got to make something happen. So we ended up getting smoked that game.
Yeah.
Like, we played against a good ball team. That's when they had Geno Smith, Tavon Austin, Step, and Bailey. That's whenever they beat Clemson like 70-30 in the Orange Bowl. So they was loaded, and I'm like, this is my first start of walking on the field with these boys.
Some dogs,
right? And I ended up having a good game. I had like 8 tackles, a fumble recovery, and a pick 6.
All right, so now you got your start, you got your feet wet, had a great game. No looking back now. You're here. You're here now. From there, it was yours for the rest of your career?
For the rest of my career. Yeah.
All right, so now you excel freshman year. I remember coming up to the Cincinnati game, wet game, driving up there, watch y'all boys play. So, boom, red shirt freshman year, balled out. Red shirt sophomore year, balled out. Red shirt junior year, balled out.
Yeah.
Now, red shirt junior year, you're eligible for the draft, correct?
Yeah.
Did you have thoughts of?
100%. That was my goal.
Yeah, that's what.
It was ill because freshman year, I got Big East freshman of the year.
Okay.
So I'm the best of the best in this class, right? Offense and defense. Big East freshman of the year. Sophomore year, I did what I did, and then going into junior year, I started getting phone calls and agents hitting me on my DMs and Twitter, listen, this is where you're at. You're projected a 3rd round draft pick. If you have another year like you've been having, you can only go up. say no more.
Yeah,
say no more. Like, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Right? So going into junior year, my whole mindset was go be a professional ball player. No doubt.
So now, all right, junior year's here. All right. Leading up to this point, where was your academics? Because now, freshman year, you struggled. 1.3, 1.9.
Yeah.
How was it the following years?
It was a little bit better. I still had a few semesters under a 2.0, but I had one semester where I did really well. That gave me some cushion. Right. So I wasn't really excelling academically, but I was doing just enough
to get by,
to make sure that I was on the field.
Yeah. Now, with you struggling in the beginning, was there a lot of help that was offered to you to put you above that mark? Like, what type of maybe tutoring or, type of help that UConn offer you to try to move forward with it?
It was ill because, really, they did help in a sense, but for the most part, I was written off. Like with the academic staff, there was so many situations where they was just like, Ty's done. Right? Like, they would tell my boys not to even hang with me. Because, and me, I never drank, never smoked, still to this day. Never drank, never smoked. And the academic staff is like, stay away from him because, here's the quote. It was ill.
They telling you boys this.
They telling my boys this, right? Like, Gus, Lowe, my boys that I'm with every day. And they're on the same tip as me. They don't drink, they don't smoke, right? We all just kind of hang out together because we're interested in the same things. So they're like, listen, I want you to stay away from him because if he gets jammed up with the police, I don't want you holding anything for him. They said that to him. Ain't that ill?
It's ill because I know you. And
I'm like,
that's not even.
I'm like, where do they even get that from?
They just making up stuff to tell your boys just like yo, stay away from Ty because he get tied up, you gonna get jammed up with him.
But here's the thing, as a freshman, we all had to do a project on where we come from. Right. So everybody does a project of, the highlights of where they come from and, what it's like where they live and, the things that they've seen growing up. So everybody's project is like amazing. They come from, Tennessee, Chattanooga, LA, San Diego, Miami, like all of these like glorious places. And I do my project on McKeesport. So I just did my project on what I've seen growing up. So I think they took that and ran with it and created a narrative based off where I was from.
That's wild to me because, like, knowing you, personally knowing you is just like, for someone to say that, like, you never even been tied up in, like, none of that. Like, you know what I mean? Like I done been through some bull crap, but like, okay, but like you hearing that is just like, for real? Y'all serious?
It was ill. They told them that, and then they told the incoming freshmen, there's 3 people you need to stay away from. This person, and Ty. And I'm like...
And they don't even know you. The freshmen don't even know you. They probably think like, this dude's a thug.
Exactly. It was crazy. Like, they was painting the craziest narrative of me at UConn where I didn't want to go into the academic building. I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to do anything academically because of this narrative that they painted of me. I just wanted to play football and get up out of there.
That's crazy. Like that's like, I'm like thinking like, that's wild. Like
that's why I wanted to transfer.
Yeah, because I remember the phone call. You called me like, what up, cuz? And I'm thinking about trying. I'm like, come on the kid, dog. Because you was talking to Coach Ott. Coach Ott, because he recruited you when he was at Kent. Yeah, he recruited you. Yeah, he was trying to get me to. So as a freshman up there, he was trying to talk to your cousin, see, convincing, da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, he hoop. I said it to him. I said, he going somewhere where they going to let him hoop. That's what I said. And I remember BG wanted you to hoop and play football, right?
Play both.
Yeah, because I remember I told him, I said, he going to go somewhere he can hoop, whatever. He said, no, just talk to him, and then when you called me, I was in the hub. I remember the conversation, you talking about transferring. I was like, I'll talk to him.
And when I wanted to transfer, there was nothing. It was nothing to do with football.
Yeah,
it was all the academic stuff. I was like, man, I'm getting out of here.
That's wow. So all right, let's go to that now. Let's touch on that. You want to transfer, okay? All right. because obviously the academic, football wise, you're excelling, you're doing what you got to do. Academics, all right. So what stopped you from that initial thought? Like, you calling around, calling myself, call whoever, look and considering transfer. What took you from that initial thought?
I think it was the success I was having on the football field and the relationships that I built outside of, the academic department and things like that. I got some amazing friends that I went to school with. That was part of the process. The success I was having on the football field was part of the process. And I was like, I think I'm so rooted here. And
it's hard to leave those relationships.
It's hard to leave those relationships. And I think where I'm at, football-wise, I'm going to be able to do some things what I want to do. So
that's I don't know about that. Them painting a picture like that, that's crazy.
It's crazy. I couldn't believe it, man.
That's crazy. Like, y'all wow me. But all right, so here, junior year now, redshirt junior year, you're told you have a year, you possibly go top 2 rounds, right?
Yeah.
All right, so now junior year here. You do your thing, right?
Yeah.
Do your thing.
Well, for half the season.
And then what happened half the season?
So we open the season up, right? I'm highlighted on the team because of the things that I've done the previous 2 years. Mm-hmm. So going through that with my mindset of going to go play professional football.
So your mindset going this year, if I ball this year, I'm leaving.
Exactly.
I'm not even staying my senior year. I'm leaving.
Yeah, it's not even a question.
Right.
Especially with everything that I was going through academically, I was like, it's not even a question. I ball out this year, I'm out. So it was crazy because we're going through the season. We're about 4 or 5 games in, maybe. I got like 50 tackles. Like, I'm doing my thing, and a few PBUs, and I'm like, man, I don't got a pick yet.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't got a pick yet. It was crazy. So we're going against Louisville that week. Like, whatever week it was, we're playing against Louisville. Friday night, ESPN.
That's when they had Teddy B?
Yeah, when they had Teddy Bridgewater, Devontae Parker, all them boys, right? So we're studying the game plan, and I'm like, I'm going to get a pick this game. Like, I felt it. I was like, I'm going to get a pick this game because we knew if they got 3 receivers here and they're in the boundary, they got 3 receivers to the field, and Devontae Parker's by himself over here, Teddy Bridgewater's going to look this way, and he's going to throw the fade to Devontae Parker. And I was like, I'm going to pick that off from the middle of the field.
Yeah.
So I'm hyped, right? And going into that week, I was like, this is it. I'm going to get my first pick, and I'm going to solidify myself, right? And Louisville was top of the top at that time, right? They might have been top 10 at that point. So going into that week, I'm hyped. And then it was a Thursday practice. Mm-hmm. So, like Monday you're usually off. Tuesday's a tough practice. Wednesday you got... you scale it back a little bit. Right. Thursday, you just in a helmet and some spiders, right? You ain't really competing. So it was a Thursday practice, which was a Wednesday, but a Thursday practice because it was a Friday game. And we're doing short yardage and goal line, helmets and shoulder pads on. So they get a ball to the scout team running back, who was our fullback, and we meet in the hole. And it was like a routine tackle. I thought him up, and as soon as I thudded him up, like I lost all the feeling in my body. And I hit the ground. And I remember like it was yesterday, Yalwin Smallwood, who was our linebacker, who's a beast. Yeah. He's like, get up, bro. I'm like, bro, I can't feel my body. And
so you're laying on your back, face down, or?
I'm laying on my back. Okay. But before I went down, like I lost all my feeling before I hit the ground. So it felt like Yalwin was like right here. Everything around Yalwin was spinning, but Yalwin was staying still. Yeah. But it was like an out of body experience almost. So I hit the ground. Yalwin's like, get up. I'm like, bro, I can't move. And then like a few seconds go by, probably like 20 seconds go by. They bring all of the trainers over, and I start to get my feeling back. And I'm like, all right, like let me up. Like, we're cool. So they're like, no, we got to take you off on a stretcher. So I'm like,
and you can walk. You're like good at the.
They wouldn't let me get up.
Oh, okay.
They wouldn't let me move. Like they was like had my arms and my legs like that.
Yeah.
Where they wouldn't let me move my body at all.
Right.
So they bring the stretcher up and they take me off practice field in the ambulance. and it's a Thursday practice, and we shouldn't even be hitting.
Right.
So they take me off on the ambulance and take me to the hospital, do whatever test they need me to do, and I'm going off on the people in the ambulance because they got my helmet on me, and my helmet is super tight.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yo, take this helmet off of me. And I'm going crazy.
Yeah.
And they're like, you can't talk to the nurses like this when we get to the hospital. I'm like, if they take this helmet off, then I won't have to talk to them like this.
Real.
So I'm in there going crazy. And so we get to the hospital to take my helmet off, to do all of the tests that they need to do. And at that point, I'm like, y'all gonna do this, I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna go practice, go through walkthroughs tomorrow. I might miss this game.
Yeah.
Alright. But I'm gonna be back in the next couple of weeks, right? So
Alright, so you got hurt, you're in the hospital, right? What are they telling you?
not much really at that point. Like at that point I go through the hospital, I go through all the tests and blah blah blah. Then the next day I come into the team doctor. He calls me in. He's like, listen, here's the deal. He's like, you got a bulging disc in your neck and you got spinal stenosis, which is like a narrowing of the narrowing of the spine, where there's not a lot of fluid that's protecting the spinal cord.
Okay.
So like if a tough hit comes, the fluid's not there to protect it, so you can be paralyzed. So I'm like, all right. So I'm like, what does that mean?
Right.
So they're like, I want you to go home over winter break because you're out for the season.
So they told you right then, like,
they told me, yeah, they're like, you're done for the season. I want you to go home over winter break, and I want you to talk to your parents and, you know, let them know your condition, let them know what's happening, and I want you to come back and make a decision on your future.
Is this the doctors or the team?
The team doctor.
The team, okay.
The team doctor. He's like, I want you to go home and, you know, talk to your parents and come back and let us know what you're going to decide to do in terms of your football career. So I'm like,
You're saying like, all right, you need to decide if you're going to play or not.
Yeah, exactly. You need to decide if you're going to play or not. So I'm like, and they're like, but we highly recommend that you don't play. And we had a kid who was there as a student coach who had the same injury as me, but he retired like 2 years before mine.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, cool. I'm going to go home. I'm going to talk to my parents about it. I'm going to get a few different opinions from different doctors, too.
So where's your, before you get into that, where's your mind at? Hearing that, is your parents there at the time?
No.
So it's just you?
Just me.
How's your mind as a 21-year-old young man? You was about 21, right?
Yeah.
21-year-old young man, 9 hours away from home, mom and dad ain't there, told you, like, I recommend you don't play football no more. Like, where's your mind at?
The illest thing at that point, when he said, I recommend that you don't play anymore, I was just like, but you're still giving me the decision.
Right.
So,
okay.
like, I'm going to go home and talk to my parents, but I'm going to come back
right.
and I'm going to tell you that I'm playing football. Right? So, at that point, I was like, all right, like, I'm going to go home and come back and I'm going to play. So, it didn't really dawn on me yet that something serious was happening. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So, I go home, I get a few different opinions, some people saying this, some people saying that, and I come back to UConn and I tell the doctor, I talked to my parents and I'm going to play. He was like, no, you're not.
What?
He was like, you're done. And at this time, our coach had got fired, so we don't have a coach either. We don't have a coach, so the doctor is able to, he's just making this decision without, you know, talking to the coach or anything like that. And
so he made the decision, like, you're not playing.
Yeah, he was like, you're done. I was like, but you told me that it was my decision. Like, I could come back and, you know, let you know what I wanted to do.
Right.
He's like, no, you're done. So I was like, at this point, it still didn't hit me. And when he told me you're done, I was thinking like, all right, we're gonna get a coaching staff. Whenever the new coach comes in, I'm gonna talk to the new coach about what's happening. And I feel like I still got a chance to get back on the field. Right, so I'm going through all winter workouts. And I'm like, clear 15. Every chance I get, I'm screaming out there, clear 15. And everybody on the team was like, clear 15. So it was like one of those situations.
So they're letting you work out with the team?
Yeah, I'm still working out with the team and, you know, going through the whole thing.
You're just not full contact. You're not. They held you off from full contact.
Well, we was just working out. We was just lifting.
Okay.
We was just lifting. That was it. And running. But I had some restrictions. Like I couldn't back squat. I couldn't do certain exercises because of my neck injury.
Right.
But I was still going through the off-season workout. Yep. So from there, we get a coaching staff that came in, and he's like I talked to the doctors. We want you to stick around and be a student coach.
You was just a man.
Yeah.
Like, you just a man, and now they tell you, and the coach didn't even get to see you play.
Coach didn't even get to see me play.
Just.
He's like, we want you to be a student coach. I was like thanks, but no thanks, bro. I'm a ball player.
Right.
I'm not a coach. I'm a ball player. So at that point, I'm like, I've done all of this. I've done all of this here at UConn. Like I've been a 3-year starter. I've gone through everything that I've gone through here with the academic staff. I'm projected a top round draft pick, second, third round draft pick at the time. And I'm like, I can't play here anymore.
Right.
But the thing is, my mindset was like, I'm still going to play football, whether it's here or wherever it's at.
Right.
So I didn't feel like my career was over.
Okay.
Although it was over at UConn, I didn't feel like my career was over.
So there was no chance, no nothing. They was straight like, yo, bro, you ain't getting cleared. You be a student coach. Yeah. If not, then you ain't playing here.
Yeah, that's what it was. What it was. So I was like, so I went through like the spring, and I wasn't even around the team. He's like, I don't even want you to come around the team. So I'm like, I go to class, I go to my dorm. I had so much time to just think.
Yeah.
So I thought
so not around the team, you couldn't even go to the facility to work out?
Nah. No, actually I did. Okay. I went to the facility to work out, but I couldn't work out with the team. Right. So I had to find my own time to go work out.
Now, did they give you workouts, or you had to do your own?
Nah, they gave me workouts. Okay. Yeah, they hooked me up with the workouts. And we had an amazing strength coach. And during that time, the whole process, I didn't feel like the doctors knew what they were talking about. Like the whole process, I was like, you guys don't know what you're talking about. Right. Now, I'm not a doctor, I have no medical background, but my whole mindset was like, you are the team doctor, you're recommending me to a hospital who's going to say the same thing as you because you're not going to butt heads with each other. So I was like, I'm going to go home and figure something else out.
So your whole mindset is like, me hearing this, I feel like a lot of the doctors up there, and I could be wrong, a lot of doctors up there, they didn't want to be responsible if something happened.
Yeah,
basically.
No doubt.
So it's easy to say like, don't play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just I don't want that on my hands.
Exactly. And I understand that now to a certain degree, but I felt like they didn't put in the work to see if we can help this student athlete get back on the field. They just wrote it off. Right? And one, because I don't think they were knowledgeable of the injury, and I don't think they were knowledgeable of me and how I was feeling, because it was crazy. During that time, I had the neck injury, so every time I would put my head back, my whole body would tingle, and I was like, this isn't right. Yeah. And I would tell the doctors, I'm like, every time I put my neck back, my whole body's tingling. Yeah. And they're like, that's because of the spinal stenosis. You don't have a lot of support in there. And I'm like, no, because the spinal stenosis, they said it was something that I was born with. Yeah. And I'm like, I haven't been feeling this my whole life. Yeah. Like, something's wrong in there. Right. And they're like, no, it's just the spinal stenosis. So I'm like, well, how do we fix it? Right. And they're like, well, we got to do a surgery where we have to go in, we got to cut you open, we got to open up your spinal cord, and we have to put a cup in there to expand it to give you more room so that there's more fluid to protect it. And I'm like, if y'all do that, I'm definitely not playing football. Yeah. I'm like, there's got to be something else. Right. They're like, no, that's the only option. I'm like, y'all, and me, I still don't have no medical background. I'm like, y'all know what y'all's talking about. I'm like, y'all know what y'all's talking about. Yeah, y'all saying the craziest stuff right now. Yeah. So I come back to Pittsburgh during spring break, I think it was, and I go see the team doctor for the Steelers. And he looks at the MRI. I tell him what I'm feeling, what I'm experiencing, and I'm telling him every time I put my head back, my whole body starts tingling. Yeah. And he's like, that's because you got a disc in there. Whenever you put your head back, the disc is hitting your spinal cord and it's causing that sensation. But that makes sense. Right. That makes sense. Right. So I'm like, how do we fix it? So he's like, we got to take this guy, we got to fuse your bones together, and then you'll be cool.
Yeah.
So I'm like, boom, like,
Right.
that makes sense. So I go back to UConn and I tell him, I'm like, listen, this is what the doctor said I needed to do. He's like, no, we're not letting you play.
So they're not even hearing. Like,
Not
we
even
just got
hearing it.
NFL doctor told me this.
Yep.
They said, nah, we still not.
Not even hearing it.
So how? All right. So now you're up there. You told them this is what got happened, and they're not hearing it. What's the next? What's next?
I'm leaving.
You're leaving.
I was like, y'all ain't gonna let me play here. I'm gonna go find somewhere that's gonna let me play.
Yeah.
So there was no transfer portal at the
Right.
time, so I had to go to compliance, get all of the paperwork, and ship it out to. If you wanted to be recruited by the school, they can't just look at a list of names
Right.
and see you on there. So you got to ship your paperwork to every school that you want to recruit you.
Right.
So I'm doing my homework and I'm seeing, what schools that I want to go to, and I knew my defensive coordinator left UConn to go to Boston College.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that was one place where I can have a home. So I call up Coach. I'm like, Coach, I'm leaving UConn. Here's the situation. He's like, bro, come on.
Yeah.
Like, we can use you here. So I'm like, all right, cool. So that's a school, and then Georgia Tech was the two schools that I was looking at going to when I left UConn. I took a visit to Atlanta. I was in Atlanta. They got me on the rooftop of the W. I'm overlooking the city with the pool on the rooftop. I'm like, man, this is crazy. They're giving me all of this, like, Georgia Tech. They got a big sign, like, one of every 6 graduates from Georgia Tech is a millionaire.
Ooh.
And, like, they got Coca-Cola
Yeah.
headquarters, Chick-fil-A headquarters, and, like, our student athletes go and do jobs here all the time.
Yeah.
Like, after football, you'll be set. I'm like, man, this is it.
Yeah.
I called my dad. I'm like, yo, I love it down here.
Yeah.
He was like, what you like about it? I was like, I don't even know. I just love it down here.
I love it.
So he's like, you going to Georgia Tech? I was like, I don't know. So he's telling everybody back here, I'm going to Georgia Tech. But I ended up going to Boston College.
Going to Boston College was the fact that you was familiar with your coach, the coach that's what sold you?
Yeah. Like at the end of the day, I love Coach Brown, and like everything that I've accomplished right now is mainly because of him. So I knew that if I went there, he was going to treat me right.
Yeah.
And he told me before I got there, he's like, listen, bro. He said, you come up here. He said, we're going to take good care of you. We're going to make sure you don't get hurt. And you're going to pretty much be like pre-NFL.
Yeah.
You're not going to practice much. You're going to go play on Saturdays. And then you're going to leave here and you're going to go play professional ball.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's what I want to do.
So, all right, you're there. You're in BC. Because you still had to get cleared, right?
Yeah, well, BC cleared me.
BC cleared you?
BC cleared me. Georgia Tech cleared me. And it was 3 schools. It was BC, Georgia Tech, and West Virginia.
Okay, they all cleared.
West Virginia didn't clear me.
Oh, West Virginia didn't clear you.
West Virginia didn't clear me. BC and Georgia Tech did.
Why is that?
Because
Same deal with kind of UConn?
UConn was lying.
Yeah.
Like, the night that I got injured, it was cold outside.
Mm-hmm.
It was freezing. It was in November, I think. It was freezing
You up
outside.
there in New England anyway. That's cold as heck.
And here's the thing, like, whenever I started getting my feeling back, you know how whenever you're cold and you go in the heat and your body's tingling because you're warming up and you're thawing out, like that. I feel like that's what was happening. But they told the staff at West Virginia that I was paralyzed for 45 minutes. Oh, that's not true.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they say he was paralyzed for 45 minutes. Like, I don't recommend you guys take him, so they didn't.
But they told the other two that too, and they just.
I don't even know if they called, honestly.
Was sick. Slayer. All right, so you have BC. You have a good year, right? You ball out, pick off your boy, Jameis Winston. You do your thing. All right. Finish off the year. Now, before I get into this, you finished out UConn. You graduated?
I graduated from UConn, yeah.
Okay.
That was a miracle.
Yeah.
But I ended up graduating. I did what I had to do. Graduated from there and then started my master's at BC.
And what you get your master's in?
Sport administration.
Sports administration. Okay. What was your undergrad?
Sociology.
Now, did you just do that because it was just like, all right, I'm sociology?
Going into junior year, you have to declare a major.
Right.
So I walk into the academic departments and I walk into her office. I'm like, what's the easiest major you got? She's like, sociology. I said, sign me up.
That's all.
Play football anyway.
Yeah, facts. All right, now we're here. We're at BC. You ball out, do your thing, get picks. now it's time to everything you worked for from White Oak to McKeesport, UConn, finish the BC, everything worked for, we're here now.
Yeah.
Finish up the season, let's go get this bread.
Yeah.
All right, so now you training for the NFL. Do your pro day. Did you get an invite for the combine?
No.
No combine. All right. So now you got your pro day. You do your pro day. You do your thing.
Yeah.
All right. So now it's just the waiting game, right?
It's the waiting game, man. I went through the pro day. It was ill because I had a scout at the pro day come up to me and was like, I didn't even know. I thought you retired. So I was like, nah, I've been here. And he was like, oh, I didn't even know that. So a lot of teams probably thought I didn't even play that year.
Yeah.
Until they did the due diligence where they had to go scout and go to different schools and stuff like that. But at the pro day, I ended up running a 4.5, did 20 reps on the bench, jumped to 38. Like I had good numbers. Right? I had good numbers at my pro day. And going into that draft, I was like, before my injury, I was projected the 3rd round draft pick. So I was like, post injury, like I'm not gonna expect to get 3rd round draft pick.
Yeah.
I had a severe neck injury. If I go 4th or 5th, I think that's fair.
Right. So all right. So now draft is here.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Draft day come. Get a call. No call.
Ew. Draft day comes.
Day 1, no call. All right. Day 2, no call again.
All right.
Day 3.
Day 3. So 2015 draft. Like you said, 1st, 2nd round, I was like, all right, like I believe in my heart that I could have been drafted, in the 1st or 2nd round, no call. 3rd round goes by, no call. I'm like, all right, like that's where I was at pre-injury.
Right.
So post-injury, I'm like, all right, 3rd round, no call, cool. 4th round, no call. I'm like, all right, like 5th round, no call. I'm like, what's happening?
Right.
6th round, no call. I'm like, now at this point, you're watching people get drafted. That you're like, man, like this dude's getting drafted. Like even people that was on the other side of the ball, like the running back at Michigan, I was boom, boom. I was hit, man. And then he gets drafted. I'm like, what is going on, man? 6th round go by, and my parents ain't even watching the draft with me because they know I'm hurt. Right, I'm watching the draft in the living room by myself. My mom and dad's upstairs. They know I'm hurt. Yeah. So I'm just watching the draft on the couch by myself, and I'm like, 6th round, Bum's getting drafted. 7th round, Bum's getting drafted. Free agent. Like I was like, all right, I'm gonna wait an hour. My phone gotta ring for free agent. I gotta be the top free agent. Right. You know whenever they show best available. When I'm a free agent, I gotta be the best free agent available. Like, come on. Hour goes by, no call. 2 hours go by, no call. The day goes by, no call. So I call my agent. I'm like, I ain't even called my agent yet. I called my DB coach from UConn, and I'm like, man. He's like, what's up? Where'd you land? I was like, I ain't get a call yet. He's like, something ain't right. Yeah. He's like, something ain't right. Let me make some phone calls and get back to you. So he never gets back to me at that time. Whoever he called must not have answered the phone or whatever. Yeah. But like the 3rd day post draft, I get a phone call from the Dolphins from Miami. He calls me.
Shout out Miami, you know.
Yeah. Shout out the Dolphins, DB squad. So they called me. I'm in Monroeville Mall walking. They called me. And they're like, hey, just want to let you know that you're on our radar. I think we want to bring you in for camp. He said, I'm going to go into the team meeting and we're going to have a conversation with the training staff to see if we can bring you in. So I'm like, bet. So I'm going to Miami. My whole mouth said, I'm going to Miami. So he gives me a call back. He's like, we can't bring you in. Like the medical staff said, with your neck injury, we can't bring you in. So I'm like, all right. So then I call my agent. I'm like, what's going on, man? Yeah. He's like, I don't know. Let me put some phone calls out there, see what's happening. And he's like, he calls me back. He's like, yeah, you've been medically rejected. Like, they ain't gonna allow you to play.
Because of that neck injury.
Because of the neck injury, yeah.
And you done just played a full season of college.
Played a full season.
So what was it was just more of a risk, too big of a risk for it, or was like what the?
I think it was their due diligence with UConn.
Yeah.
them calling UConn and them saying,
asking them about, hey, what's up with this
what
injury?
happened that day?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And he paralyzed 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Wow. So, all right. So, you were projected early on, second round pick, third round pick, whatever. I know me personally, when I projected, fifth, sixth round pick or whatever, taking a chance on the late round pick and not getting a call, that hurt.
Yeah, that hurt.
But so that's late round. So like me, I was just like, I know you get a free agent. But you were third, second round and not even get a call. How like we talk a lot about mental health. Where was your mental? Like, you know what I mean?
I was going through it. I don't know if I left the crib. Like once I talked to my agent, I don't know if I left the crib for I don't know how long, but he was trying to get me to go play in the CFL, and like at that point, I was like, I just played a whole season. Like if they can't see that my injury is good from this whole season that I just played, I'm gonna go to the CFL and waste my time.
Right.
Like, I was like, I don't feel like I got that time to waste. Like when football's over, then football's over. But I didn't really grasp that for a few months, man.
So were you okay with football being over?
Not for a few months.
Yeah.
Not for a few months. Like I was hurt. I was still holding on to the fact that maybe like somebody will get hurt during camp and I'll get a phone call. Like I was trying to stay ready, but at that point I had no idea like what was next.
So it was either NFL or nothing. You weren't down for CFL and none of them other leagues.
Nah.
Just like NFL and NFL, and wait and not move on.
Just because people will get picked up from the CFL from time to time, but it wasn't likely, man. And I didn't want to be one of those people who was continuing to chase that dream. And I was just like, man, like I gotta just figure out what's next. And I had no idea what was next, but I just felt like I had to figure it out.
So now, no football. NFL, you got medically rejected. All right, you got your bachelor's, you got your master's.
Not yet.
You don't got your master's yet. So when did you? So April come around, draft and all that. Yeah. When did you end up getting your master's? Finishing your master's, I should say.
I went back to Boston College. That summer.
So following.
I went back to Boston College that summer, and because Coach Brown, who I went up there with, it was crazy. Before the season ended, I walked on the field before practice one day. He was like, "Bro, I love you."
Bro,
I was like, "I love you too." He's like, "After you play in the NFL for 15 years, I want you to come coach with me." And I was like, "All right, cool." And then we go through the draft, after pre-agent process. I don't get a call. I call Coach Brown. I'm like, "Hey, is that offer still on the table?" He's like, "Yeah, come on up." So I go to BC. They don't have a spot for me at that time, so I had to volunteer. And it was ill. I went through it at that time.
So you don't even got an income.
I only got an income. So I go to BC. I'm volunteering as a like volunteer assistant coach. I'm selling vacuums and I'm working at LA Fitness. I go there in the morning for practice. We practice in the morning, and then we break down the film. And then from there, this Kirby vacuum where you gotta take it was a vacuum that you gotta take and you gotta clean somebody's crib with it and try to sell it while you're cleaning the crib. So I'm selling vacuums, and after I try to sell vacuums, I would go work at LA Fitness at night.
You get a free workout.
I got a free membership, and I would work the front desk at LA Fitness for like $9 an hour. So I was doing that, and then I would get back home at like 11 o'clock at night, and I would wake up 4:30 in the morning and do it all over again. So I was going through that process, and
So you did a year of volunteering.
Did a year of volunteering.
All right, so now you basically do your year of volunteering. What comes and you finish your master's then?
I finished
that following
I
spring?
finished a year and a half later when they brought me on as a GA.
Okay. So that for a year and a half you did volunteer?
No, for a year I volunteered, and then a year and a half after that I GA'd.
Okay. So now what you're doing is a lot different than the GA. So you GA, how did you like that? Like that's a different ball game from coming from you played all them years, XY amount of years. Now you're coaching.
Yeah.
All right. How's that transition?
I think it was difficult at first because I felt like I could still play professional ball.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was out there coaching, I'm like, man, I should be playing.
Right.
So relating to the kids on the team was easy. Seeing what was happening on the field was easy. Everything that had to do with the players in the game was easy. Breaking down the film, being in the office for 16 hours a day, like that was hard.
Did you really like, this ain't for me?
This ain't for me. But the thing about it is, like, I loved everything about coaching except working 16 hours a day.
Yeah, that's wild.
So I was working 16 hours a day. I was in grad school, getting my master's. So it was hard, man. Getting my master's, working 16 hours a day, and we wasn't getting paid much. We was getting paid $18,000 a year, maybe. So we was going through that, and then
That's expensive up there.
it's expensive in New England. So I lived in Rhode Island.
Right.
I lived in Rhode Island because I couldn't afford to live in Boston. So I drove down every day, worked 16 hours. There was a lot of times I slept in the office because by the time I got done working and driving an hour back to Rhode Island, I was like, I might as well sleep in the office.
Right.
So there was times where I slept in the office, and like just going through that whole process, I think now was a great experience for me. But going through it, I hated it.
Yeah.
I hated it. And I only say that now because going through that compared to what I had to do after that, everything was so easy.
Yeah.
It was so easy. Like going through grad school and working 16 hours a day was tough.
Wow.
So everything since then, I was like, this is easy.
Yeah. Nah, listen, working 16, because I work a lot and I'm in school right now, so I already know, but staring at it, breaking down the film, getting paid pennies, that's dead.
No, it was crazy.
Dead.
Like I knew with a sociology degree, I wouldn't be able to do that.
Right. That's
what are you going to do with a sociology degree and no experience? Right. And I was so focused on football that I didn't put myself out there to get different experiences professionally beyond my sport.
Right.
So if I would have done that, I would have probably been in a better place to, try and experience different things career-wise beyond sports. But going through those 16-hour days and going to grad school was really my only option.
Right, yeah.
Because I didn't have anything else to fall back on.
Yeah, there was no plan B.
There was no plan B.
Shit, for real, that was plan B.
Yeah.
On the go, plan B. Yeah.
Plan B because, like,
plan A was, didn't work out. Right. No, that's what's up. So, all right, so, boom. You get your master's. Mm-hmm. You got BC. Mm-hmm. You get hired on. When did you transition from coach to, athletic department?
I left. Well, I was at BC and I was a graduate assistant. I was making $18,000 a year, working 16 hours a day, and I had a baby on the way. So I told myself, I said, listen, first of all, $18,000 a year in Connecticut, I can't support a child. Working 16 hours a day, my child's not even going to know me. Right. She don't know me. Now I can't support her financially. I was like, I'm out. So I got my master's, and that's when I left, and I came back to McKeesport. Okay. So I came back to McKeesport after that to be the assistant AD, and then, from there I continued my career. And then, all right, so you're back here, you're back home, do your thing. What made you want to leave here, though? Like, just wanting more? Like, what was it that made you? Because then, from here, you took that jump to Michigan. I did. Correct? Yeah. So, what made you, like... Because a lot of people, like... One thing I always, talk about you is, like, you get up and go. Mm-hmm. Like, you know what I mean? You're one of those people where I think we see often that McKeesport keep people stuck. Yeah. Your city keeps people stuck, but not you. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, what made you want to... All right, you're here. You got baby Ava. She's here. You got your family, everything. Mm-hmm. What made you say, all right, Michigan? Well, first, I think Michigan was a great opportunity. And one that was hard to pass on. Yeah. But when I came back to McKeesport, I didn't feel like I got the same love that I got when I was playing. Like when I came back to McKeesport as a student athlete, I was mad. This, that. I didn't feel that same love
Yeah.
when I came back to McKeesport as an employee. Just
Right,
working in the school district. I was doing what I had to do to try to help the kids.
Right.
In the classroom, we were doing to try to help the kids outside the classroom. And I just didn't feel like I had any love from the city.
I think, no, you're absolutely right, because I can, like, think and hearing that and thinking back when I came back and transition is a lot different. Like, you get a lot of, and it's just not ours, it's a lot of places.
Mm-hmm.
You get a lot of fake love, like, what can you do for me? And once you're not someone's meal ticket anymore, you know what I mean, you're really useless, kind of. Like, you know what I mean? We see it all the time for people that come, just not our city, come out and ball, and as soon as something goes wrong,
write them off.
Yeah, think about this when you're training for the pro day. You're training. All right, you're projected to third round. Boys probably hitting you up. Hey, what up, bro?
Yeah, exactly.
As soon as you ain't get a call, ain't nobody. Hey, bro, it's all right. Keep your head. And you ain't get one call up.
Not one phone call, man. And I think the people that's been true to me, stayed true to me.
Right.
And I appreciate all of the people that's been there through all my ups and downs and the highs and lows and everything that I've been through. But there was a lot of people who was, supportive of me when I was a student athlete, that whenever I didn't get that NFL call, they disappeared.
Yeah.
And it's part of it, and there's no hard feelings about it, but that made it a lot easier for me to leave whenever I got an opportunity.
Yeah. Okay, so did you like Michigan?
I love Michigan.
Yeah.
I loved everything about being at Michigan, just because I loved working with student athletes. I identify as a student athlete. I loved helping student athletes and giving back to student athletes. And I was working as an academic advisor at Michigan.
Right.
So I was so passionate about helping them figure out their identity beyond sports.
What's wild to me is that, like, it's knowing where you came from, 1.3, 1.9, being ineligible, all that. You're an academic advisor.
Like,
like that's a true testament to, like, your character. Like, you don't let nothing stop you.
Exactly. And the shirt says it all, right?
Facts.
The shirt says it all. And the thing about it is, like, experience is the best teacher. Right. So I've been through that process as a student athlete, and I failed at it a lot of times, right? There was a lot of failure through my student athlete experience. So going through these lessons, like physically going through it, mentally going through it, I felt like I was able to give so much to the current student athletes once I was done, because I've been through it, and I bumped my head on so many walls where I'm like, listen, I did X, Y, and Z. You don't need to do that because I already did it. Right? So here's the game plan of what you need to do so that we can figure out what you're going to do beyond your sport. Because trust me, like, the sport's going to end someday. Like, you're not going to do this for the rest of your life. So let's figure out what we can do to help you once your sport's done.
Now think about that, though. Because now, we know now, like, all right, this don't last forever, right? You're told that throughout your years coming up, you're told what you're gonna do after football. You're gonna do that. You don't think about that, though. And we never, I know I haven't personally had someone when I was coming up saying that, what are you gonna do? We need to sit down for you to do this. Sat down with me and said, we need to create a plan. So now you're doing that. You've been through it, you know what I mean, all that, and now you're here, student athletes doing what you love, coming from a 1.3, 1.9, all that other bull crap, not even being a studious person.
Yeah, and I was so passionate about it because my career ended prematurely. It ended when I thought it was only going up. Like, I was like, all right, it's about to take off, but then it was like, boom, it's over. So I was coming from a perspective like, listen, what are you gonna do if football was done now? Because I went through it.
And you ain't know. And
I had no game plan. So I was like, I got no game plan. Like, if somebody was to come to me and say, what are you going to do when football is done now? I had no answer. So I want to help you develop an answer so that you don't deal with the same experience that I did whenever football was over. So that's why I was so passionate about trying to help student athletes and give back and give them that perspective on, looking at life beyond sports.
So now, all right, and I had to say this, you gave me one of my best experiences being when I came up to Michigan. and watching them boy being on the field with them come out, touch the Go Blue sign. Man, that's probably one of those like. If you ain't never experienced that as like a college football fan, you got to do it. All right. So you go from Michigan back to BC, right? All right. So now you do academic advising at BC.
No, I jumped because my whole plan was to be an athletics director.
Right.
So being an academic advisor is a great job. It's a great thing to do, but it's not necessarily the path to become an AD. Right. So I did my master's thesis on what do you got to do to become an AD, and how do you be successful, being an athletics director. And I interviewed a ton of like athletic directors and assistant athletic directors on, what it takes. And the overwhelming answer was you have to be a great fundraiser. If you want to be an AD, you got to raise money. So I knew, like, in academics, I loved doing it, but that wasn't the path.
Right.
So I went to Boston College to get into fundraising.
Oh, okay.
And it was funny. It was funny because, like, I went through my master's thesis, and it forced me to network. So when I was going through the master's thesis, I connected with the associate AD at Ohio State. His name was Martin Jarman, right? So we ended up developing a pretty good relationship. We, spoke a few times after I interviewed him for my master's paper. And once I was at Michigan, he ended up becoming an AD at Boston College. So whenever a position came open at BC, I reached out to Martin. I'm like, hey, there's a position open. Can you help me out?
Yeah.
So the power of the network is crazy.
It's crazy. That's in life in general. Like, it's all about who you know.
Exactly.
You network, get a good list of people that you can call and favor for a favor.
No doubt.
So, all right, you BC, leave there, you come back home. Welcome home. Welcome home. So you're here, not necessarily home, but home. You're at West V, doing the same thing?
Yeah, fundraising. Yeah.
So what is that? Is that what took you to West V, being home? Like,
I think it was part of it.
Because you've been gone for a while. You think about it. You go from BC, UConn to BC, Michigan to BC. You're at least 9 hours away from home.
Yeah, it's 2022. From 2010 to 2022, I probably spent 1 year home. I spent 1 year home. So when we was at BC, like at that time, I'm with Jocelyn, and we have a daughter, and my whole thing was, I'm not gonna leave unless we're going back closer to Pennsylvania, or I take a job where financially we can't turn it down.
Yeah.
So coming to West Virginia was the next step in my career professionally, but it's also coming back home.
Yeah.
And regardless of the love that I think I deserve in the city, I think the kids, need some direction. Right. And I think I've been through experiences in my life where I can come back and I can provide that for these kids.
Right.
So I think that was huge in that decision of coming back and living in the Pittsburgh area, in the McKeesport area, and taking a job at West Virginia.
And not only that, like, we don't have to do these over Skype or
exactly.
over online.
Exactly.
And all we can go in person. You know what I mean? How we started. But nah, listen, you have I said in the beginning, you have a story that is like need to be heard, and I think is real beneficial to a lot of student athletes, because a lot of times student athletes, I was there, you was there, you don't have no plan. Like, you get put on your ass, you get put on your ass and you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Everybody got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yep.
And when you get punched in the face, you don't know how to react.
Exactly. And I feel like I got punched in the face 1,000 times. And I went through so much adversity, as a student athlete and beyond that, where, I don't feel like I can experience anything now that can shake me up. Right? Because I've been through almost being kicked out of school, right? I've been through being at home whenever everybody else on the team is grinding up at school, and I'm coming back and I'm, last on the depth chart. Right? I've been through not being drafted and, trying to figure out what's next and freaking cleaning people's houses and trying to sell vacuums and, working for $9 an hour. Like, I've been through that.
Right.
I've been through working 16 hours a day for pennies, right? And going through grad school. And I don't feel like there's an experience out there that's not close to death that I can't handle.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, listen, saying all that, I'm just like, because like I said, like knowing you personally and knowing like personally watching it and see it is just like, it's a strong individual.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of, I think your story need to be heard more often, especially to, like you said, you come home to our kids around here,
sure.
You know what I mean? And just the environment that we came from, and just to know how people paint that picture, sort of like your academic staff, UConn painted a picture of because of where you're from.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? That's not the first time that happened.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That happens so many times where young kids leave environments and, cities like ours and go to these, different places and prejudged.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's why, we're here to change the narrative, man.
Right.
Do what we got to do to change the narrative. And, my whole experience, shout out to my dad, who made me, kind of developed me into the person that I am. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of the kids have that, My dad developed me into what I am. And my dad couldn't be there to get me through these experiences that I had, right? Like, I had to deal with them on my own, but I've had that upbringing where he's like, listen, you got to get through it. Like, you're going to have to be tough and you can't quit through nothing.
Right.
So him telling me that, like, listen, no matter what happens, you can't quit. I never quit.
Yeah.
And I took every experience that I had head on. And, a lot of it I had to deal with by myself.
Yeah.
Right? There was times where I'm just in a room with a neck brace on at UConn, not knowing the future of football is for me. And I'm in there by myself. And I got to deal with it by myself. And a lot of that, I took head on by myself, and I ended up getting through it.
No, that's what's up, man. I keep reiterating, man. Your story is great because I don't know. I'm thinking like if I had an injury like that, I don't know if I would have had that at that point in time when I was in college. Because I don't know if I would have had that drive to. And you're lying. I'm going to this doctor. Mm-hmm. If I'm told by that doctor, I'm like, dang, it's over. Like, you know what I mean? But you, like you say, you had that, that fight, not to quit. Mm-hmm. Not saying I'm a quitter, but I'm just saying, like, I don't know if that would have been the same. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, same narrative. And a lot of people dealt with the same thing. It was funny because you say that, and I was at BC in preseason camp, and I was watching TV at breakfast, and there was a guy that was playing for the Giants. He was playing running back. I forget his name. But he had the same injury that I had, and he retired. And he announced his retirement. Yeah. I'm sitting there watching it with the same injury, and I'm watching this dude announce his retirement. Yeah. And it shook me up. I went and told the coach, I'm done at BC. I was like, I'm done. He was like, whoa, like, why? I'm like, this dude got the same injury as me, and he retired. Like, he left the NFL. Yeah. I was like, I'm done. And he was like, whoa. He's like, let's call your doctor and figure it out first. So we called the doctor. I did my surgery. I'm like, yo, I'm done. He was like, listen, I'm 100% sure that you'll be good. He said, if I was 99.9%, I wouldn't let you play. That gave me the confidence.
All you needed.
Yeah.
Dang, I was
I was like,
hey, Mom, it's over. Come get me.
Yeah.
But nah, man, hey. I wanna congratulate you right now, for everything that you accomplished and accomplishing, because you're a doctoral student, right?
I started out my doctorate. When I was at Boston College, I got to be at West Virginia for a year before they pay for it. But we'll see what the future holds, man. I don't hold back any punches. Whenever I feel like I want something, I feel like I go and get it. And whatever the future is going to hold, I think it's going to be in the best interest for me, for my family, and trying to do everything that I can do for the community right now is a lot of where I'm at. Right. Me professionally, I think I'm going to be all right. I think I've developed a lot of relationships that no matter what happens to me professionally, I'll always be able to land on my feet. But I have a lot of focus on, trying to help the community right now.
Yeah. All right. So to wrap these things up, what's something? We got a young fan base. What's something that you want the younger student athletes to get from your story?
I think with me is, no matter what adversity that you go through, you can come out of that. You can come out on top of any situation. Like, you literally have the pen to write your own story. Right. You'll have roadblocks here and there. You'll go through something where you think you're going to end up in one place, and that road gets blocked. You can turn around, go back to where you came from, or you can figure out a different path to get where you're going, right? And I think with me, you can see where I've had so many situations where I could have been like, I'm just going to turn around and go back to where I came from. But I continue to rewrite my story and figure out, what's going to be next. Right? I didn't let my circumstances define my story. Right? I always felt like I was in control of that. And no matter what happens to you, if it's on the football field, if it's in a classroom, if it's socially with friends or girlfriends or boyfriends or whatever it is, you write your own story with God's permission, of course. But you write your own story, man. And I think if you understand that at the end of the day, your future depends on what you're doing right now, I think you're gonna be all right.
Hey, you write your own story. Everything you do is because of you, good, bad, and different. Everything you do is because you write your own story. So, man, thanks for expanding on your story. We knew a little bit. Well, I knew a lot, but we knew a little bit, and we learned a lot more. You know what I mean? And like I keep saying, your story is something that need to be heard. The things you went through, the adversity you faced, you know what I mean? And your character is what got you through it, you know what I mean? You never question your character, not once. So thanks for, sharing the story. We're going to wrap it up. Until the next time, we're going to be out of here. Thanks for tuning in. We get at y'all.
Man. Make sure y'all follow Status 412_ on the IG. Hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Make sure that you're following everything that's going on because it's becoming special. We are a nonprofit 501c charitable organization now officially. So anything that you want to do to contribute to that, feel free to.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We out.
Good one.
Yeah.